गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। Today we are going into technology. Recently, the government has come up with a scheme to scale up research, development, and innovation in strategic and sunrise domains, essentially in the private sector. And we're going to talk of it today. And joining me to talk of it is General Rajiv Narayanan and General Harimohan Nair. At the outset, welcome to today's discussion, which we are turning away from Pakistan and China and the rest. Okay, and we're going to talk of something with technology as to how we're going to use this technology against others, and how we need, because we all know that we are a little shy in technology as a whole, right? Um, Now, to set the ball rolling, what I'll do is, uh, as you know, recently the cabinet approved, a research, development, and innovation scheme, basically for research and development in strategic and sunrise domains. Now, it's got a corpus of 1 lakh crore rupees. The idea is to provide long-term financing or refinancing. Both are there with low tenors, low interest, or nil interest, so that uh, private sector gets into R&D. All right. So far, private sector has been cribbing. We don't have R&D. The whole idea is encourage the private sector to scale up research, and the aim is to hit the sunrise and strategic sectors, right? And these strategic sectors and sunrise sectors are not limited to defense. There could be economy, economic security, and self-reliance, and everything. Now they're also looking at the financial aspect of this whole story. How do you transform the financial structure to support all this? Because at some level you need to have a structure which can stitch together all this from womb to tomb. And they're also looking at how to fund the gap between uh, technology availability and converting this technology into something viable, because everyone calls that the death trap of technology. In technology terms, it's called TRL 7 to 9, right? That is technology readiness level 7 to 9, where things have to start coming on ground. Then they are also looking at supporting acquisition technologies, which are critical or high strategic importance. This is very important, because if you don't have to reinvent the wheel, this is like getting technology from outside. Acquire that technology and implement it here. And then, of course, they're looking at deep tech funds, a deep tech fund, and a deep tech fund of funds for India. A very forward-looking thing. There's going to be Anusandhan National Research Foundation set up, where the head will be the prime minister, and it will give all strategic directions to the scheme. Plus, there's going to be a lot of empowered group of secretaries headed by the cabinet secretary, who will be responsible for approving various schemes and so on and so forth, to look at the nitty gritty of the whole thing and ensure it is. Like, this is the broad uh, you know outline of the government, which personally I feel it's a very good thing, because I think after a long time we are waking up to deep tech. We are waking up to strategic technology in a wholesome, holistic manner, right? Uh, it is with this in aim, and see how will this roll out. What are the issues which are at stake, and what are views, because sometimes these things tend to be bureaucratic. How can we improve upon it? How can we discuss all this? I have with me General Rajiv Narayanan and General Harimohan Iyer, right? I've spoken quite a bit. I'm going to withdraw from speaking and let both of my compatriots, both incidentally are from IIT, right? And we all three are involved in some aspect of this thing which is going on. Only thing is, we have been doing it at personal level, at I wouldn't say institutional level. We are doing it at institutional level, but low down the chain. Hopefully, this will push us up the chain, and that is why we are discussing it. Personally, it is important for all three of us, and I think as a system, it is important for the IIT and the government, the defense forces, and everyone that we get this thing going. And as we go along, there are some interesting developments which are happening. We will come back to you to discuss those issues which align with these policies. Right. With this, I'd first request the Rajiv Narayanan. Yeah, you have your say, please. Sorry, I've
Thank you,
taken
sir.
up time. Yeah.
Always a pleasure to be on your channel. Yes, I will come to that. My concern is the too much of bureaucratization, and I'll just explain. But this is a very welcome addition that at least we had always been cribbing that our R&D levels are very low, 0.64%. By giving this 1 lakh crores, and people who are listening in the US, this is 1 trillion US, 1 trillion rupees fund, and it's a long term fund, so it's a very 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 welcome change. Now the issue is that while you are saying that you're pushing for private sector to come into R&D, but the Anusandhan Research Foundation was set up last year. The CEO, we can proudly say, is an ex IITM. The Dr. Shiv Kumar Kalyan Raman, he was selected last year. He is the CEO. But in the functioning, uh, he is placed only at the executive council level. He is the CEO of your ANRF. You just pushed him down the ladder, and he doesn't have the power to clear any funds. What is the structure? That is my worry. You already had a Vigyan Dhara scheme under the Ministry of Science and Technology for capacity building in the same spheres. You have allocated in this budget around 14 1500 14 1500 crores of rupees. Where does that fit into this? That is, there is no clarity on that, because the procedure that they have given is the ANRF, uh, chaired by the PM, will give the strategic direction to the RDI scheme. Good. So who are the people there? Minister of Science and Technology, Minister of Education, Principal Scientific Advisor to the government has been made the secretary. Why not the CEO? What role has the Principal Scientific Advisor to do here when ANRF is functioning and you have made a CEO? Why the Principal Scientific Advisor? And you're saying key government officials, means the CEO is what? Just Babugiri to note down the minutes and create this? That I find is very, very surprising, the manner which has been orchestrated. Again, the Executive Council has the Principal Scientific Advisor who is not part of the ANRF. He's again been made the boss of the Executive Council. And the secretary here is the CEO of the ANRF. That means he has no role. You've handpicked him to decide everything for the foundation. You're not giving him a role in how to spend this money. And they are only approving. Who is clearing? The CABSEC and the empowered group of secretaries. These are generalists. What will he know whom to give and whom not to give? I don't find any of our military for the defense. I don't find them anywhere in the decision making. We talk so much about need for funding for evolving and emerging technologies. Who's going to give it? The defense secretary? I thought our own deputy chief should have been there, or at least the CDS should have been there. Because they are talking of ministry officials. We are attached headquarters. We are still not part formally of the ministry. The CDS should have been placed there, my personal view, because again, what they have said is it will be given as a long-term loan. I'm sorry, R&D doesn't function on loans because you can never pay it back. You're not sure when you're doing the R&D whether it will be successful or not successful. Long-term concessional loans for startups, most welcome. Sunrise and strategic sectors, you want to give long-term loans for this thing, but innovation, incubation, ideation, which is part and parcel of R&D, doesn't function on loans. Abroad, all these labs which they have their R&D, the private sector are given grants. They're not given loans. When they have produced a technology that can be applied, which they transfer to a startup, the startup is given a loan. यहाँ तो मामला ही उल्टा कर दिया है. You're giving the R&D a loan. There is, I find it something, while they have taken a wonderful in creating this fund, too much of bureaucracy involved. And we have noticed in all the departments where too much of bureaucracy comes in, things don't fructify. Will the private sector step in such a case? You want him to do R&D. You're saying that, okay, from here I'm going to fund you, but you're giving him a loan. How can he be sure whether a project on R&D works? I would have preferred if they had gone down the ISRO route, empowered that CEO, give him a CFO, and then from there, between him and the scientific advisor, start pushing things around. Then I felt it would have been a better thing, because the scientist understands the need and the problems that an R&D faces. They have been through that, they understand that. So while it is a wonderful step, I wonder how much it will give a push. Yes, startups, it will give a wonderful push. I'm very sure about that. The acquisition of technology, it will give a wonderful push. How much of R&D push, I feel it is up in the air at present, how much it will work. I'll leave it at that. Yes.
Right. Fine. So what you have said is generally it's a damn good thing which has happened. It has got issues. Acquisition of technology definitely will work, right? It's a matter of
Yes.
bargaining. The startup ecosystem, we've had experience for the past 5-6 years, so things will move. But technology investment by private R&D, people might not come in, because why would they invest in something which they don't themselves know it's going to go ahead? There's an issue related to this. I'll come back later, and that's an issue I think which we need to discuss. Uh, yeah, let's get General Harimohan your views on this whole thing and your macro view.
So, firstly, I agree with General Narayanan. There's too much of bureaucracy involved. The moment you put a empowered group of secretaries to control a fund, there's going to be a lot of effort to get the funds. The second point, which they are very conveniently camouflaged, is that 70% of this money is coming from the technical grants, which are anyway going to the universities. So by and large, what is going to happen is it is taking it out from one box and putting it into another. So today there are a large number of people who are doing research fellowships. I do agree some of these people are not producing any valued thing; they are just using money. But that notwithstanding, there is some amount of bad blood which is going to come up, especially in our training institutes and especially technical institutes, because they are going to be starved for fund, especially the second and third tier colleges, which grants they were getting earlier from the government will possibly dry up. And there are a lot of analysis on it which says that while old IITs may be able to weather through it in the first 5 years, subsequently only the others will catch up. So there is a catch to it. It gives a lead to the old IITs, especially IITs like IIT Madras, which has already got a research park up and running, 100 plus startups which are there on ground. It will be a huge benefit for such an organization where both the sides of the coin is already ready. But when you look at the others, I'm a little skeptical, because this 1 lakh crore is like a googly. It's huge amount of money which has been shown. But then add to it, they have said 5 year period. They have added that near zero interest. I don't know what it means. Near zero could be 5% also. So I don't know how they are going to distribute this money. The third issue is it will take at least 5 years once the research starts for it to reach production line, especially in this kind of technologies that they are targeting. Because we don't have any a foothold in these technologies. Green energy technology, we are still struggling in that. Even in the defense, AI, etc., we are in the bottom rung of that ladder. So the money, by the time it starts, generating funds for these startups, it's going to be a very long period. There is somewhere they have said that the government is willing to buy back, which they are using the American model. And if it works, then some amount of money will come back into the system. But personally, I am a little skeptical as to how the money will flow. And it should not so happen that your PhD and research scholars are suddenly struggling because they don't have grants. That's one part of the story which I wanted to flag. Secondly, they have taken a lead from the American system. The American system works because all their universities, let's say MIT, etc., they are tied up with the big term industry. You know, the industry may be in America, the manufacturing may be happening across the world. They are already established. And here we are in a system where we are trying to do everything ourselves. We are expecting our startups to suddenly start performing in world standards. There's some gap to be, crossed, which I feel will also have issues as we go along. All of us come from IITs, IIT Madras per se should be very happy because we are possibly going to benefit the most because the entire structure is in place. So whatever projects and startups we take forward, I guess there are going to be funds available for them to start working, and that is possibly something we can start looking at. I would like to stress upon the issue. It's very easy to say we'll take it to TRL 8 and 9. We are yet to negotiate TRL 5 in most cases, and especially in the scheme of things in which we are trying to invest, we are still in the basic structure. Even the academia is struggling to try and find what it has to do. So it will take some time, and I agree with General Narayanan. At least the Secretary DMA should have been part of the, if not the CDS, the additional Secretary DMA should have been part, because defense technology is something they have flagged very boldly in the scheme. They say they'll use it for dual use for civilian purposes. So if defense technology is going to be part of it, then we need to be having a say into this system. This two-tier funding system is again something which needs a lot more study. Because I don't know, they are trying to say that all IITs, they'll start generating fund managers. They are trying to create an ecospace of venture capitalists at young age. Very nice to look at, very nice to hear that. But are we ready for it? Are our people empowered for it? Are they trained for it? I don't think so. Because most of these venture capitalists are people who have seen the industry working for a period of time. They just cannot start working and start funding money without having understood what are the implications to these kind of fundings. So there are loopholes, sir, and I'm sure more things. This is just a press brief which has come out. I'm sure a bigger document should be waited for before we start, ruling out this process. The money shown out, it's actually 1,50,000 crores because 50,000 crores is already there with the ANRF. So this is a huge amount of money which is being, sunk into research, and definitely old IITs which have got established setups, they need to take value from this announcement and start putting their right foot forward. That's what I feel.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think both of you raised very valid points. I'm going to raise a very fundamental point, which I want your views, and then we'll take it forward. I have 2-3 issues. One, I'll talk of this technology readiness level business, and the second, we'll talk of private enterprise, whether they'll come in or not. And third, we'll see how the government has to behave and organize itself. So these 3 issues, if we can tackle, will be good. What I request is these questions which I ask, this be a little brief so that we can tackle more issues. The first thing is this business of technology readiness levels. You know, uh, for any technology to reach a technology level 9, which is supposed to be the deployed technology, you have to start at zero somewhere. Okay. Now, if you see this fund, even in the opening preamble or the initial press brief which has come, the focus is to go beyond five, six, seven, and
Six,
7, 8,
six.
9. 6 to 9, which is the operational end. But equally, you need to do the hard end from 0 to 5 also. And while very few people can do technology levels 7 to 9, 0 to 6, lot of people have to do to come to some level, right? And that base has to be big. While say getting what both of you have said, if the government has just taken money from the science grants and put it here, won't that fundamental research go down? And that lot of such fundamental research is being done in the tier 2 colleges. So unless you have fundamental research being done somewhere, tier 1, tier 2, both, old new IITs and all that, the rest can't go ahead, isn't it? So isn't there a dichotomy in the way things are being planned? That's the dichotomy I see at the outset. Because nowhere it is said how do you handle fundamental technologies. Yeah, Rajiv.
You have put hit the nail on the head, sir. Because while you may look at TRL levels 7, 8, 9, bulk of the funding and research work is done between 1 to 4 or max 5. Because you don't even know will you will go beyond 5 or beyond 4 in a particular line of research that you're planning to do. If you're doing 10 on a similar field, 10 different types of R&D in a similar field, you'll be damn lucky if you can get 3 to 4 to fructify to that level 9. You'll
I'll
be
put it
very
as
lucky.
one,
No, I'm just
one.
saying 3 to 4, being very optimistic that I am. Then suddenly you're talking that that is where I put the point, Nasir, concessional loan. And the point which Hari has given, that if you're taken it out from here, the point that you're making, where does this fundamental research work, pure science research work, who's funding them now? How do they do it? You can't just jump up to 9. That means at the initial moment, as I see it, you are pushing more and more quietly towards acquisition of technology at this time. You're not even looking at basic fundamental pure science. So pure science, once you have understood and reached some level, only then you can go towards applied science. Applied science just doesn't come from the air. You need to have your basic strength in pure science, understand and absorb it, then you will be able to know, the scientists will be able to know, or the students who are proceeding that line will get to know how to apply it. अगर बेसिक वो फंडामेंटल्स के लिए फंडिंग नहीं है, I have my doubts, serious doubts. It may look nice on paper, 1 lakh crores. I could be wrong. They may be having something, but at the moment, what information is available, uh, I think it is
Yeah,
a push for, it is a funding to push for acquisition of technologies.
yeah. Hurry, your views.
So, when you look at that, they have conveniently used that word pair. If you see if you analyze one of those things
Ah,
which came up. So when you look at pair today, sir, I can take example of IIT Madras since we are all from there. They are expecting us to, join hands with let's say 8 to 10 tier 2, tier 3 colleges, including smaller IITs. And they say that the funding will be, spread between this entire wheel. It's a very good idea on paper. But the problem is the level of intellect, both at the faculty level and at the student level, at both at the tier 2 and the IITs, which are going to be the hub of this so-called tier. On paper it is very nice, you're taking everybody along. Somebody can say all of them are as good as IITs because you're connecting to them. The faculty of IIT is available People can come and use the infrastructure at the IIT to push forward their research. So there's these kind of things people will start collating and say that, okay, people sitting in, let's say, Tiruchi or Coimbatore or let's say Mysore or Bangalore, who are all linked to, let's say, IIT Madras, they can come and use the infrastructure which is created in IIT Madras, so that we don't have to create 5-6 different set of infrastructure at various places. Very nice to look at. But you must understand that the issue is when the guy is doing his curriculum. It could be his master's, it could be his doctorate, and it could be even his undergraduate. He has to be part of that research in this period. There are a lot of stakes involved in this, and there are going to be a lot of fissures. On paper, it looks very nice. If there is that's why I say I'm still waiting for the follow-up document to come, because there will be certain degree of procedures which will be laid out on that, in terms of how the money will flow, how the results will go down, who will graduate from tier 2 to tier 3, because TLR 2 to TLR 3, because everybody can't go there. Work has to be distributed if you are looking at a consortium to work on it. So that work has to be expended out. Certain people will have speciality in some kind of fields. So there is scope. I will not write it off as a bad case, like I said. But then there are too many imponderables at the moment when you look at the press brief and whatever is available on the net. In fact, I've been spending a lot of time on the net for the last 2 days, trying to ascertain as to how this is going to go forward. There's a lot of confusion, and yet to see any university per se come up and give their points of view, because this is where it is going to affect, especially all our deans who are going to be fund managers. They are all going to be struggling to find grants for various departments, because the money is going to get held back for like you said, TRL 5, 6 and 7, whereas we have not even crossed TRL 3 in most cases. So would the startups be driving this case forward, or is there a case for big time industry, whether it is the Ambanis and the Adanis? Are they going to come in and start investing into this, saying that there is money already available, and possibly take home the kind of results which come out of it? Because it's a competitive market, nobody is going to give money for nothing. They all want to have something in return. It's worth watching, sir. But I think when I was going through the entire documents, they are taken IIT Madras as a basic structure, because that we
Yeah,
have the
that's because you have everything with us. Yeah, that I
and
agree with you.
now that they have created one in Bombay and Kanpur, they feel that a similar thing can come up like a GIF in other
Yeah,
places.
I agree with
And
you
I'm
there.
sure this money is going to come from this corpus only, all these research parks wherever they create. Creating a
Yeah.
research park is not the answer. Point is, you have to create the people who are to do research, which is at the
So,
moment not visible in this document.
not there. Yeah. The point, I think both of you have brought out very valid points. One is, is there, broad thing, is there going to be a funding imbalance between lower levels of TRL and higher levels of TRL? That's the thing which is at stake. The second thing is, creating these master and, hubs and spokes and all that. It's nice to say hubs. We are all part of IIT Madras, all three of us, and we are very happy to say IIT Madras is fully equipped to do that. But my question is it fully equipped to do so? I don't think so. And no, we must be honest. We must be honest, because we don't have a structure. Just because IIT Madras has made a research park, it doesn't mean you can take on research for sunrise technology and strategic industrial technologies and all that. That's a different ball game. That's a completely different ball game. And thereafter, to manage 10 or 12 other institutions under you, as a hub, the whole ball game is completely different. For which I don't think IIT Madras is capable of handling at this point of time. You don't have the structure, you don't have the organization. We might have many things.
Any of the old IITs, sir. Just look at the dean. Firstly,
We are at
here
least
he's
one
going
rung
forward,
higher.
trying to give funding to the department. Now you're telling the dean you'll fund the tier 2 and tier 3 also.
Yeah, so, and that's the point. The point is, you see, all these chaps who are now in IIT Madras, We've created some structure and all that, but none of them, I will dare say, including the director, have much knowledge about what happens and how things happen in other universities, other institutions. And IIT Madras is probably the best placed, but even here, I find it not up to there. And I think very serious thought has to be given to this. Very serious thought has to be given to how this whole story will go forward. Otherwise, this will come a cropper. And I go with what General Narayanan and Hari have said. This is a damn good system for acquisition technology from abroad. It's a very good system to promote startups at this point of time. But what you need to do to create technology and own technology is still up in the air because there's too much haze as I see it. Okay, before I go further, I'd like to spend 1 minute on what is technology readiness level, TRL. When you are looking at technology, there it has to be ready to be deployed before you convert the technology into an operational system. So you start with fundamental research at TRL1. That is where you start saying, okay, atom can be broken into 10 parts, this, that. No, as per my new technology, I can break this atom into different parts in a different manner. That's the beginning of the technology. And then you progress one, two, three, four. At each level of technology, you get a new step in and a new method of handling that initial problem in. When you come to, TRL 9 or 11, it depends on how many TRLs you people put it, right? At the top level, that is operational. That is, you deployed. So that atom which you broke at TRL 0, here is an atom bomb at TRL 9 or the top TRL. In between, it is there. Till about TRL 5, which is mid levels of technology readiness levels, it is basic research. It is development of research. I'm not going into great details, I'm going mota mota. 6, 7, 8, 9 is when you start getting operational. 6, 7 is basically proof of concept type, right? And 9, 10, 11, or depending on which scale you're working out, is or 7, 8, 9 is you convert that proof of concept into something for trials, you carry out trials, and the last is when you deploy it. So this is the thing. So when you say today TRL, the second bottom of half of TRL is fundamental research, which is carried out by everyone. So I just thought I'll put this because I saw a question, and it's a very valid question, fundamental question for everyone to understand. Okay. Now the next thing which I want to highlight, and we'll have a discussion on, is where do private chaps come in into this whole story, and what level do they come in? How do they fit in? If you're going to give them funding, and are these chaps going to come? How? I mean, this flow of funds, government to private to industry, private industry to research institutes, or government to research institutes, then plug and play kind of a thing with the private people. How do you think this will happen? Are there dichotomies in the story? Will only favored guys get, or people will who have even mid-level and industries get some funding, right? Otherwise, if it's only the big players who get funding, then the bottom half is left off, and then your industry doesn't grow. You'll not have Elon Musk coming up. Elon Musk is a phenomenon which has happened over the past 20 years. If you keep funding Ambani, you'll not get Elon Musk. Your views, Rajiv, on this?
Very true, sir. So, when you bring in a private partnership, you got to set up your research labs everywhere, not government. DRDO has its labs. I'm not talking of that. That is government funded. You need to have your labs, private labs, which are funded, private sponsored labs in these institutes where research work is being done for those people. But unfortunately, our private sector is just not interested in R&D. That is why I said that this funding they are going to use for acquisition of technology. So the moment you bring in loan, in R&D, that becomes a big question mark for R&D. You and I know, sir, how much you struggle just to get through, to get a proof of concept in a lab environment itself is so much of a struggle. And some concepts do not fructify. You got to take a different path. Who's going to accept a loan? You need grants for R&D, which is wanting. Not to say that I have given a 1 lakh crore fund and you scrounge everywhere and keep it and put bureaucracy on top of it to make sure that the fund is not spent. Pardon my saying so, that is what I find bureaucracy all about, is how to ensure that a fund doesn't get spent. And expect the private sector to bring in the R&D out here, especially like you had clearly mentioned in the TRL levels 1 to 5, which is where bulk of your R&D is supposed to be. Only a few, 1, 2 or 3 may go up to the levels of 6, 7, 8, 9. You are just squeezing out the funds. Will the private sector set in? They are total into Banyagiri because they need to look at profit and loss sheet. And the same thing is here, they are looking at profit and loss statements when you give loan. So there is much to change, but let us see. The fine print is not yet out fully. As more and more fine print starts coming out, we'll be able to have more clarity on how they plan to utilize this fund. So they've said long term. Long term means what? 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. A normal research itself takes, your PhD itself takes 5 to 6 years. So there is much of an information gap at the present moment.
Yeah, I agree. It's only initial. This is initial brainstorming, but it's good to do some brainstorming. And I'm probably the government has answers for issues which you have raised, but we'll have to see. Okay, Hari, your turn.
So, firstly, as I look at this, I don't think the government is looking short term. We must understand that this money, I don't think we are going to see anything in our lifetimes, any of these projects seeing the light of the day. When I say that, I'm looking at 25, 30 years. Because somewhere in the fine print I saw this is one of the fundamentals to go towards the Viksit Bharat of 2047. So when they put that possible timeline of 2047, extrapolated it back, they are putting a start point here. So I take it that things will start happening only, let's say, later half of 2030s, maybe earlier half of 2050s. So if that is the kind of gestation period we're looking at, it's not going to be a quick hand solution that it is going to happen in next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So that is the first point. Secondly, they are targeting the youngsters of today, which is a very noble way of looking at things. It will stop brain drain. If people get funded in their undergrad level, possibly they will not look at opportunities outside, and especially the way our friend is creating issues across the Atlantic. There are problems today, and people say that there is no money to keep your brain inside India. So this could be one kind of a carrot which they have dangled, and I think we should give that kind of a look to it. The third issue, sir, if I was to extrapolate it, when I look at this scheme, it looks very similar to the American scheme which they call as Small Business Research, SBIR. So when you look at small business, we are looking at SMEs, MSMEs. Those kind of things are what people that are going to be targeted, especially at the lower end of the spectrum. So I don't see Adani, Ambani and all coming into this game as of now. They're going to be lower end businessmen, venture capitalists, people who are willing to take that risk, people who are starting off now, people who want to possibly look at business in India and abroad. So it is something to look at handholding those kind of people who are starting up. Something like a Dhirubhai Ambani of, let's say, 1970s. So if somebody of that nature is picked up today and is handheld, possibly in another 15, 20 years, he will be it may not be Elon Musk, but definitely he can be a Mukesh Ambani, if I was to extrapolate it that way. So in that terms, whether you look at the way Americans are doing, they are also doing research. They are not giving money to the big end industrialists. They are using this fund for smaller business, which are small end stuff. Most of the production is happening outside America, incidentally, and that's why Trump is furious. He wants this entire business to come back because what this small business could not afford to have that kind of manufacturing in America because it's not cost effective for him. So that's why most of his production even is happening in countries like India, Philippines, Malaysia, China, etc., etc. So in our case, there could be those kind of industries which can be targeted, which are already getting funds from, let's say, America. And if that can be funded by us, and we keep that resource with us, possibly it'll make us a competitor to the finished product maybe 10 years down the line. Because all these research, whether it is India or America, they are all in the tier 2, 3, 4 levels as of now. Nobody has gone beyond tier 5 because all these are niche technologies that are yet to see the end of the date. So there is scope for catching up here. And I feel when you look at and I always use this as an example. When you open an Adobe software, the list of people who worked on it comes. Every line has got 3 Indians. So it is not that Indians don't have workspace. We don't have the kind of hand holding to possibly put it in our own spectrum. So that's why we go and look at work at, let's say, maybe Adobe or a Microsoft or a Google, which are all operating outside India. So with this kind of money, and I feel it is just a start. When you look at this kind of expectation, if you're looking at Viksit Bharat, you're looking at industrializing India, you're looking at making it as a competitor in the world, you need to put in much, much, much more. Possibly it is time when, all these 5-10 years down the line, when these SMEs start finding feet, you will find the big players also coming into the game because ultimately somebody has to produce it. The SMEs can only produce a portion of it. Somebody has to, assimilate, accumulate, and, make the full product. So there is scope to it. I will not rule it out totally. I personally feel very limited scope for defense manufacturing in this scheme because these kind of technologies are more oriented towards civil technology. Even you read the fine print, they say in the defense they are looking at dual use technologies for civil purposes. So by and large, it's going to be driven into civil sphere. But if the government, because 10 years ago people said, expanding IITs beyond the 7 or 8 that you had is going to be catastrophic. Today we have got, I think, 21 of them running. And the results which have come out is much better than what was there 10 years ago. So I guess some people do have sense when they made certain things. That's why I said I'll wait for the fine print to come. It is not it's not a system which can be totally written off, but it is not something that we should be euphoric about also, because for the next 5 years your grants are going to be squeezed because this 70% of money which will go away, it is going to create a kind of squeeze, especially to tier 2 and tier 3 colleges because they don't have their wherewithal to sustain this kind of thing. They'll possibly lean on to the IIT hubs to help them out. So that is a challenge. Possibly next 3-4 years after this thing comes into place, there's going to be a challenge. Can be negotiated, sir. I guess every cloud has a silver lining. So let's assume there are some
Yeah,
positives to go with
yeah,
it.
I'm sure there are a lot of positives. I mean, look, I mean, let me put it this way: we are only discussing what we have seen, and this whole scheme is, visionary at the fundamental level. We are discussing to see what are our fears, what are our apprehensions, what are the issues which we don't know. And we are largely talking today of the unknown unknowns. It's not even known unknowns, right? It's unknown unknowns. And this is just a policy document statement which has come out. But the thrust is right, like we all agree. Yeah, one issue which I want to highlight, and again your views on this, and after that we'll take questions, is there's not much focus on defense technologies in this, and I'll tell you why. Uh, it's okay to say dual use and all that, but most of the fundamental technologies today, whether you call it networking, space, communications, and whatever technologies are there today, uh, cutting edge technologies, they have come out of the fundamental requirement of the defense forces and fundamental research carried for defense purposes. Everything. Okay. For example, your entire nuclear energy, the thing is the requirement of an atom bomb led us to nuclear energy. It was not as if, had nuclear reactors before we made the atom bomb. There were no nuclear reactors before that bomb went and burst over Hiroshima. There's only a fundamental thing which I'm talking of. So, is there a case to get defense as a concept high up? Because defense drives thinking, and the battlefield drives innovation. Rajiv.
So I feel that thrust will come in because at all most levels of the decision making, except final clearance by the cabinet secretary with this empowered group of secretaries, you find the principal advisor for the government of India there, which is DRDO. So the DRDO is sitting on this fund as far as the defense is concerned. As
Yeah,
far
well,
as
look, that brings me the question: is it desirable?
That's what I'm saying. It cuts both ways. It cuts both ways because will it lead to DRDO usurping the funds for their labs and deny this outreach that has come to our various technical institutes through the cooperation by the service headquarters? So that is a thing which is a question mark, and that is why I was saying that I find it missing CDS, or like Hari had mentioned, secretary to the DMA, primarily because the design bureaus of the three services would feel left out. They bring out every year what is the type of technologies they are looking at, and like you brought out, the cutting edge technology always comes through the requirement of defense, and it finds a dual use application. Here I feel you're trying to do it the other way around, that try to see it in civil and then look at defense application. Most of the world over, most of these things have not worked that way. Like even if you look at AI, it was the need for robotics within the field, battlefield, which led to this autonomous intelligence that was needed inside the field, which led to artificial intelligence and which is now being used in the civil domain. So everything starts from the battlefield and comes from there till today. I do hope, and let's see, like I said, what Hari was also saying, let's wait for the fine print to come and see how exactly they are going to implement it. Well, I would have been happy if the at least some representation of the CDS was there in all three, at all three levels.
Yeah,
Because
Hari.
when the empowered group of secretaries are going to meet, who lays down the prioritization for funding? And like Hari said, this is 20 years. Are you looking at the way I have seen the bureaucracy means 1 lakh crores divided by 20? Are you looking at 5,000 crores every year? Not more than that. That's the worry.
Yeah, Hari, your views.
So, firstly, I think it is 1 lakh crores for 5 years, sir, not 20 years. So, I'm sure this money is not so badly going to be used. So, when I was examining it, they were looking at 5 technologies. I thought I must put it up. Semiconductors is low-hanging fruit, and I guess it is high time we, actually become masters in it, because there's a huge demand. There's a shift of industry going out of China. China is currently the leader. I guess there is scope to immerse into it, and I think we are quite okay in the levels of research. Only thing is we don't have infrastructure to produce. So if I could say we may be in level 2 or 3, we can. And I remember, coming to IIT 10 years back, and our director then a professor was mentioning we can make a chip, but we are not able to make one. So it's high time we start making processors and chips, and possibly that is low-hanging fruit. And this is small business. I'm sure a large number of people can get invested into it, and this can be possibly the first which will see the light of the day, maybe 8-10 years down the line. So whether it is defense, whether it is civil, or whether it's export, it is going to benefit everybody, because we all need it, especially with the kind of monopoly that Chinese are holding on to this. So there is one thing which I feel we can go. AI and quantum, again, I feel like it's more defense today rather than other way around. So whatever research that happens in AI and quantum, it will be almost parallel. So by and large, whether it's civil application or defense application, it will be applicable time almost at the same time. And both are nascent as it stands as far as India is concerned. We are behind. We need to catch up. There is a lot amount of funds which is required. And if we are a software giant, as we call ourselves, it's high time we exploit our capacities. We have the infrastructure in terms of brain power to invest into this part of technology, and possibly this is the time if we don't take the bus now, 5 years down the line we'll be left behind. So that is one other part which I find there's going to be some movement. And again, it is low scale startups. And I think all these research parks, whether it's the one in Madras or which are there coming up in Bombay and Kanpur and the other IITs, possibly there can be growth in this sphere. And it's doable. Biotech, we are the pharmacy of the world. It's high time we start investing in our own biotech research. I guess there is a scope of taking over the patents from what is being held abroad and just not being a manufacturing hub. We need to be the one who's carrying out the research. There is enough scope, there is enough brains, and I think money given, people will invest into it. Green technology is too nascent as it stands. We are almost at par with whatever is happening in the world, because world order is currently on nuclear power. They are also switching out, trying to diversify out of thermal. So I guess we have scope to play catch up. So when you look at the sector, these people have identified, it is some amount of effort has gone in, and I guess there will be scope for people to start applying themselves into research. Yes, big time defense deals like aircrafts or maybe ships, submarines or tanks, etc., are not part of it. Obviously, that is somewhere where we may have to acquire technology and build. But 1 lakh crore is not adequate for research of, let's say, a sixth or seventh gen fighter. It'll need much more amount of research money. This is peanuts for it. So, and it can't be done at tier 2 and tier 3 level colleges. You also look at the place where these people have targeted this money. Like I said, this money is not something new. It's going to be regenerating the grants. And to answer General Rajiv sir, they have kept the Department of Science and Technology. That is the one which is driving this. So they have not kept any other ministry, by and large, to interfere into it. So I guess it's going to be a purely academic kind of a drive with this money. And by and large, it is going to push people to take it beyond tier 4. And I must also put it across, when I was reading into the system, none of our institutions go beyond tier 3. TRL 3 is where all our academic institutions stop, because we don't have the wherewithal or the money to take it beyond. DRDO also takes it to only TRL 5. It is thereafter it is whether it's a DPSU or one of these industries which come up and make the prototype and put it for trials, and then thereafter it comes into the system. So if there is a continuum in terms of funding, when the same person is able to go from 1 to 9 in a sequential manner, possibly there is going to be continuity in the acquisition portion. And I guess that is what somebody has targeted in this. I guess again, fine print is due to before we make such kind of observations
Yeah.
in terms of its efficacy. But I guess as an institution, especially the institution who's got a research park well embedded, we should be possibly the trailblazers to push this case forward, because a lot of wherever I read, everybody was talking about IIT Madras and IIT Bombay. So whenever in every article or every news article they talk about the research parks established, possibly we have tom-tommed it a little too loud, or possibly expectations out of us are very high. So maybe people in IIT, director and down, will have to pull up their socks, try and make a large roll-on plan, because again they said it will be based on a 5-year roll-on plan. So the funding is not going to come all across. So it will be based on a 5-year plan. So we should start, especially since we are already well entrenched into this kind of an infrastructure. We should start working out this 5-year plan, and I'm sure within that we'll be able to find a slot to, apply our minds to see a defense use of these technologies, because everything has, like I said, a dual use.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think a lot of good points have come out. What I'd like to tell everyone is, all these policies are great, all our views are great, all making structures are great. At the end of the day, a lot of this endeavor is human endeavor. And, you're changing this whole story is going to change the current human endeavor the way it is going on to something new. It will benefit someone, it will be to the detriment of others. So that human issue, how it is to be handled, is not clear. And that will ultimately decide where these things go. But I'm just leaving it as it's a thought for everyone. It's not a thing. I'm sure things will sort out. The hope is that things, we should hope for the best in this case. And it's a visionary step, and it's up to all of us to make that vision come true. Okay, with this, I'll take a few questions. The first question is from Karthik. He says, do we have any long-term plan for adoption of new technology in defense and including private sector and R&D? DPSUs keep failing and decades gets wasted. It's always been an ad hoc situation of purchases. I'll go alternate. So, Rajiv, your question is.
Yeah, that is the push I see with this Anusandhan funding that has been brought in to bring in the private sectors. And once the private sector comes in, then automatically the pressure comes on the DPSU. So that is the push, and that's why we are saying let us look at the fine print to see how it is going to function in what manner. Like we already said that 3/5, after that the DPSU steps in. Is this funding going to take it all the way through up to 9/11, whatever level of TRLs you're following? That remains to be seen in the fine print how the things are going to get executed.
So just
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
add, sir. You should also factor in the corporatization of the OF. The
Yes.
effects will start happening maybe from this year onwards, next
It'll
financial
take
year.
more.
That is no, sir. The fundings are going to stop.
5 years.
They're
Capex
free
in
ration.
5 years, that means next year
Free-
it stops.
Next year it will stop,
Yeah.
sir. So if they don't pull up their socks, if they don't start generating funds, they'll lose out. So that was the first step, and we should have faith in the system. That system will hold it, and that's when it will become level playing fields. Large number of private players who are today a little
Hesitant.
hesitant to get in because they are not too sure whether the money they put into the system, subsequently the order and everything is taken away by the
Yeah, I agree with
DPSU.
that.
So maybe next year onwards it will see light of the day.
Right. I've sent an email, Gladiator says, sent an email now to Claus Publications on shape of urban design in Viksit Bharat. I would like to know your opinions on that, sir. Look, we have not seen this. It's for Claus, and I'll get in touch with Claus and we'll get back to you on this. So be patient on that. Okay. Okay, now let me take some questions. Otherwise, I'll not take all questions for everyone. Yeah, there's a comment which we agree. General Sirs, R&D is very important. It must be free from babudam. Yes, I agree. But at the same time, you can't free babudam away from it. You need certain amount of babudam. Yeah, Hari, yours. Good evening, generals. Are IIT professors able to get government grants for research and supporting graduate students?
Yes and no. Yes, in the
Yeah,
sense,
explain.
yes, some amount is coming, but not in the value in which one expects it to come. Definitely, it is much better than what it was earlier. Today, we are able to, possibly find a little more elbow space. That's what I've seen in the last 8 months, 9 months that I've been with the IIT. I've seen the IITs from a distance over a period of time, and they were struggling for funds. So to that extent, I guess some more money started coming, and I guess now we have become a little more organized in using of our funds, especially with these research parks and all coming up. So there is a continuum to the system. So good days are ahead. I can say that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay. Would it be possible to take DRDO's cream and other top scientists and create a DARPA? DRDO can focus on routine technology development and high altitude foods, whilst heavy tech, human light organizations develop super tech. Yeah, your views, Rajiv.
DARPA concept is very different. There's a lot of involvement of the private sector which comes in there. We maybe sometime down the line that DRDO may streamline itself and start going towards DARPA side. Step by step, the reorganization of DRDO is going on. But I like your second part. It, it's not just there. Also, DRDO also does some good work also. So let us not do down the DRDO that much. But DARPA is a distant dream at present, because till such time the private sector is not ready to step in to fund adequately for R&D, DARPA will be a dream.
Okay. Hari, uh, American military R&D led to the creation of a crucial civil infrastructure as GPS, drones, microwave, internet, etc. Our government doesn't realize R&D is the most important part of technical progress. Your views on this?
I think he's still in historical age. If you don't read this document is trying to correct that only. So maybe earlier, that's why I want to again re-emphasize on this word grants. There are some PhD scholars. General Shankar said 8 to 10 years. There are PhD scholars who are sitting from ages doing PhDs in our institutions and eating up grants. And this particular document, to best of my knowledge, has put a time bar to it. So money is not going to be given with just for the sake of doing. There are going to be some degree. They are saying milestones will be monitored. So there is some degree of organization which is coming back. We are possibly slow starters. We are just 75 years into our existence. So I think we should grant ourselves. We are also catching up. And maybe 2047, if people are alive to see, there could be some different way India works.
Okay. Yeah. Do consider that Google was incubated by PhD students of Stanford. Initially, the Google ecosystem in general and Gmail in particular were hosted on Stanford servers. Rajiv.
Yes, see, all this comes, what, while you may say Google was incubated by PhD students of Stanford, what is not written here is how many failures was sustained by Stanford before this happened, and who funded Stanford for this. Stanford by itself doesn't have that kind of money to be able to sustain this. There are a lot of private players and even defense who funds all these for them to be doing it. So that is how we need to look at. But was it in Stanford servers? Because a lot of Google story talks about doing it from their garage.
Garage.
So we need to see how it goes.
Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of our leaders grew up during the socialist era and still refuse to fully move past it. There is some hesitation against private sector, which is probably due to the Babudam. Hari.
Our preamble of our constitution says we are a socialist republic. And I guess that says it all. We are trying to shake off this socialist. We will never be able to do, because we are divided into, I won't say castes, I will say classes. And there is a degree of support which certain classes will always demand. And for a nation of the numbers that we are, it is impossible to shake it off, especially in the political era. I don't want to get into the politics part of it, but to the people who think that suddenly we will change a coat and become capitalist, no, it's not going to happen. It is going to be a very slow grind moving out of the socialist, structure. Unions and trade unions are going to be there, and they are going to be retarders. And we should work through the system as it stays, because it is a very huge country with a huge population that we are talking about, and it will take some degree of effort to, I don't see India becoming a capitalist country any day. That is the bottom line which I think.
Okay. Do we have any place in the system to utilize the expertise of the private field professionals? We may already get expertise from some of the industrialized standards. Rajiv.
The funding is meant for this only, you know. So we are private. It openly states that they want private participation in this. So which includes it is not just the business houses; it includes the private field professionals also, who can reach out to the various places and work out something. So you do have, but is it at par with what is available world over? So that is what the government is pushing to, and they're not looking at it overnight. They're looking at it over a 20-25 year cycle to arrive at that place. 2047 Viksit Bharat, that's what it is about. So I'm sure private field professionals will also, like we said, we've not yet seen the fine print of how the execution is going to take place. So let's see what the uh, DST, that is Department of Science and Technology, and the Ministry of Education have to say, because these two ministers are the vice president in the Anusandhan Research Fund, so National Research Fund, so Foundation rather. So let's see what how the implementation comes out.
Yeah. Sir, what about the new frontier of small researchers? Ex YouTubers are also are they also included in this? Many individually do lots of stuff and try to represent the nation, such as Garib scientists and all that. Yeah, I think your views, Hari. I think there will be space for such
I
people.
think there will be space for everybody, provided it forms part of the larger structure which they have laid out. And they have laid them out very, very clearly, the sectors which they are looking at. If somebody is able to contribute towards research tool in those sectors, Garib or Amir, I'm sure they'll be funded, and they'll have to come through. That's why this system of understanding the hub and the peers needs to be, well understood, and there will be a procedure in which these things will come up, how research will be distributed, and how they'll be funded, because it's not that it's everybody is going to get an equal share of pie. The kind of work that somebody is going to produce that kind of money for. So it's going to be, I guess it will be there.
Yeah, Vishal Singh says core processes and design in-house, make prototypes with vendors and take it from there with proper project man. Yeah, I think that's the general thing. I will not. Yeah, yeah. Uh, so the best R&D will come from startups funded by venture capitalist firms with deep pockets. The captains of private industry in India largely have a trader mindset, worried only about profits. Rajiv.
Well, yeah, let's just see how this gives a push. Like then Shankar had mentioned about venture capitalists and others. I'm sure that private investment will look at these things. So fine print once it comes out, you will come and you will get it. You have this, no, on TV you get Shark Tank.
Yeah.
That's also this venture capitalist startups coming there asking for funding.
Okay. Should we not implement a DARPA clone, or at least in part, where the U.S. Army sits on a huge part of R&D funds in USA, where GARPA, unlike DARPA, DRDO aims to outsource to R&D.
Already
Harish.
answered, I guess. Yes,
Yeah.
it's desirable. DARPA is desirable, but DARPA is not in the vision as of now. It is
I
far
would
away.
just add, sir, it's not just the US Army which sits on a huge part. It is the
all the joint
military industrial complex which sits there.
complex sits on.
US Army will not have such deep pockets to be able
It's
to give that
exports.
much money to
It's
DARPA.
all exports. It's all exports.
Yeah. You know, IIT deans have to visit DRDOs, HAL, BRCs, learn developmental. All this is being done, Vishal. Let's be very clear about it. But you know, something which General Hari has said is very important. You know, unless you get into the business of exports, a lot of this will not get driven. Okay, money matters, and money will come from exports, whether it's defense technology or any technology.
And this is where, especially for defense technology, the government has to get out of the socialist mode of having a negative list and all these private players taking clearances from the government to sell certain things. You know that what is available, what comes with you, that to the Indian military, they sign the Official Secrets Act and you have a authority holding sealed particulars which is here. They can't sell it without clearance for government. Rest of them, why should he come to the government of India to sell? Let him sell. Whether he sells a system or a subsystem, that is how the money will come.
Yeah,
So I guess to some extent, what Bharat Force did a couple of years, they have broken this barrier to a large extent. Sir. I will also put it a little bigger thing in the sense, why should everything go through the government? Tomorrow, once these will become autonomous bodies at some stage, like the document very clearly says, PMO will just give the top level clearance. How the funds are going to get generated to the first tier to second tier, it's all at the hands of the ECOS and the lower level, you know, like CEO of ANRF and etc. So there will
yeah.
be a degree of decentralization, and I guess that's how the things will move.
Okay. Hypothetical question: what will be the reaction of the big businesses if they come to know about some research breakthrough which may go against their interests? Rajiv, your view.
They'll have to cross the bridge once it comes. Why are you
Yeah.
looking at that the big business will feel that the research is going against their interest? If he feels that it is going to change the way he is functioning, if I'm the big business, I'll fund it and take that and do it myself because I have deep pockets.
Okay. I'm a scientist working in Europe. I worked in central government, funded national laboratory for 4 years. However, bureaucracy, lack of funding, and respect for scientists made me leave abroad. Look, bureaucracies all over the world are there. Funding is an issue all over the world. It's not something new. It's not only for India. The good thing which I want to highlight is, you know, in other countries are now being constrained by for funding into research. I think we are at the start of the loop, okay, because of our economy. So I think we are in good times. Initial things, hiccups will be there, but that it's a matter of time. Okay. Uh, right. I'll not take any more. Okay. Now here, I would like both your views. Sriram Tandon says IIT is just a hype and nothing else. Okay. I'll not
Big,
talk of it because I've been in IIT now maximum. I must tell all of you. I'm coming to the end of my line in IIT, so I have a different view. So we'll start with Hari Mohan, who's just joined, less than a year back and then progressed to, general.
No, I will not call it a hype. I will not call it a hype, but it is definitely not to the potential that it can do. So the answer lies somewhere in between. There is huge potential, and they're large. And when you look at the new generation of today, there are some real energetic and exciting people around, and they want to do some real good things. So possibly IITs are, and that when we were youngsters, possibly there were only five IITs to look at. Today's youngsters got 23 of them, 22 of them. So there is bigger scope. So we should have faith in this system, because if the world is recruiting from us and doing well, there must be something good happening there.
Your views, Rajiv.
huh. Basically, essentially, the people get worried because of the negative reporting that IITs we is funded by the subsidized, and they go and work abroad. Why do they go and work abroad? Which tells you that there is tremendous amount of potential available within these IITs which are there. It's not a hype. That's why foreign people come and take away the cream. Why do the cream go there? Because that is where they get the best working environment. Create the best working environment here. Why will they go out? That is what is happening. And this fund is one step towards that direction, to create that environment which I now see, the kind of environment and the kind of things that the students are doing, which I'm sure what I'm seeing in IIT in Chennai must be having in happening in most of the technical institutes all over. It is for us to ensure that we create an environment where they can thrive. Once you create that environment, there is no brain drain. It will be a reverse brain drain. And mind you, reverse brain drain has already started happening.
So I just
Yeah.
want to add. I just want to add. I visited one of my friends has started a university in Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand is one of those states which hardly has any, technological college. So this boy, a classmate of mine, who wanted to do engineering in his life, possibly couldn't get into IIT. Now he's made it big. So he opened up a university and he called me for a talk. And I was amused by the level of inquisitiveness the students had over there, undergrads. Scope is enough. I don't think Indian I will say education system is not dead as yet. We still are the brains of the world and will continue to be the brains of the world. We will still produce the best. And as like General Rajiv said, if you create an ecosystem here that the brain is kept here and produces for you, possibly tomorrow they'll generate the same kind of money which they generate from, let's say, a stint abroad. So there is hope. Let's not do away with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Being the senior most amongst three, I must have the last word. Still laughing. Right. But here is a counter view. It says, because of IIT, I moved to research. I think there is a lot of value. Our IITs, we must understand that all of us as parents want our children to go into IITs, and only the best of them go there. We have the stock. It is just that stock we are not able to internalize and divert it inside. They are going out. That's also not bad, because when they go out, they learn new things, and many of them come back. Even the few of them who come back are contributing to our society, and things are going. But like what Rajesh Singh says, things are changing. See, there's a fundamental thing which I want to tell you. And I spent about 9 years now in IIT Madras. When I came here, the orientation to many things which are today happening was just not there. I was the first army chap on their payroll, and people didn't understand what I was doing. I also didn't understand what I was doing there, and this whole story is now changed. Today we are talking of IITs in a far different manner. The second thing is, the IITs could have always delivered, but fundamentally, somewhere our government went wrong in not asking them to deliver. And as a result, the IITs never got structured to deliver. They got structured to deliver what? Undergrads who were ready to go do PhD abroad and things like that, or work abroad, or postgrads who did marginal work. That is changing today. When I joined, the ratio of postgrads to undergrads was 1:2. But today it's almost 50-50. The best results we'll start getting when it is 2:1, two postgrads to one undergrad. Somewhere around that you'll start. And we are moving there. And our fundamentally IITs are not research institutions. They are fundamentally teaching institutions. To convert a teaching institute into a research institute of what we are looking forward to them, the way they are structured abroad will take time. We never gave them time to change. Okay, so far. But that is changing. That's what I'm saying. I felt that change. I've seen that change happening. Right? And governments are now putting more pressure on IITs to change. And the governments are also aiding them to change. I won't say governments, not governments, government. So there is a change happening. There's no doubt about it. Our generation, of the three of us who are here, will not see the fruits of what's happening now. It is the next generation which will happen. And we're very glad about it. Maybe towards the end of the month, all three of us again will come back. And we're going to give you a program on what is happening between IIT and AMI. Because we are establishing a research center for which a MOU has already been signed. And this research center is going to be the first of its kind. And when we next talk to you after its inauguration, we'll talk to you with visuals of that inauguration and what our plans are and all that. Then you'll understand there's a link between what I'm talking today and what is going to actually happening on ground. It's not it's not something which is we are shooting in the air. And we want to plug into that. And we all of us have to plug into that. It is not my responsibility or General Rajiv Narayanan's responsibility or General Harimohan's responsibility to take this country in the direction. It is or for that matter Mr. Modi's sole responsibility. It is all our responsibilities which will take us in the right direction. Okay, so with this I'd like to thank General Rajiv Narayanan and General Harimohan for this wonderful talk and discussion which we've had today. I am very enthused by the kind of questions and views which have come. I'm sorry I've not been able to take all your questions because I thought each question which has come up and each viewpoint which has come up is very valuable. And I'm grateful to all of you who have said this is a good beginning. We'll have our doubts. It's up to us to overcome those doubts. With this, thanks a lot and Jai Hind to all those who joined and also Jai Hind to General Hari Mohan and Rajiv Narayanan. Thanks a lot and Jai Hind once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.